Welcome to the Basketball Society podcast. I am your host, Martin Soaries, and I want to have as many basketball conversations as possible with you. So please subscribe wherever you're listening from, and also check out the YouTube channel for video episodes and even more content from Basketball Society. Thank you so much for being a part of the Basketball Society podcast family. Stay tapped in. All right, could you be the reason your kid is trash? 8 keys to maximizing your young athlete's potential. Dorian A. Lee. He is a 51-year-old who doesn't move like a 51-year-old basketball trainer. Dorian's been training for over 2 decades, much longer than I have been. I've been training for almost 10 years now. And I got a chance to connect with Dorian by phone and by Instagram DM just to chop it up a little bit, let him know how much I appreciate his approach with this book. Dorian is the father of 6 kids. That is 6, as in 4 plus 2. My Lord, he has a special anointing on him. 6. I can't imagine having 6 anything, hardly. But he has raised 6 whole humans out here, and has been basketball training for a long time. He's really, to me, one of the more respected in the church. We don't call them senior citizens. We call them seasoned saints. And Dorian is one of those seasoned saints in the basketball culture. Definitely looking to have him. I'm planning to have him on the show soon. If you haven't seen our latest guest on the podcast, check it out on the YouTube channel. My big sister, Tasha Pointer, Rutgers women's basketball assistant coach and Rutgers legend. If you know your women's basketball history, definitely looking to have Dorian on the show to chop it up about this book and much more, I'm sure, about the world of basketball training. Dorian, man, just check out his stuff, man. The way he talks about the game, breaks it down. He's a true OG out here, and just knows his stuff. And he's been doing it for a long time. So this is a short book, 70 pages. I read it in one sitting. And I had to tell Dorian, for one, I appreciated his approach and how much he got done, how much substance there is in here in just 70 pages. I also had to let Dorian know that I especially appreciate him because in this book, he's able to give do's and don'ts for parents, reflections, actions, questions, things to think about. His personal stories, personal anecdotes, right? As a father of 6, as a basketball trainer of over 20 years, who's worked with all kinds of different athletes. I just appreciate that he's able to give legit parenting basketball advice that is much needed. Being a basketball parent today is a challenge, yo. It's way more challenging than it was just 15 years ago when I was a teenager. You've got social media, you've got all these external factors and forces and AAU and skills training. There's so much in the world of basketball that continues to evolve. So basketball parents, the challenge of being a basketball parent is evolving as well. But I had to express to Dorian that I just appreciate him being able to give legitimate parental advice as a parent because I do not have any kids of my own. I'm 33. I'll be 34 in about a month. The only kids I have are the ones that I train. So I have to catch myself out in public when I talk to people and I say, oh, my kids. They'll say, oh, how many kids do you have? I say, whoa, 0. I have not created any of my own. I'm talking about kids that I coach, training, basketball, skills development, mentoring, meditating. My kids that I check in on and that I work with, that I am not responsible for. They are not mine, So I'm just so mindful and serious about, because, when you work as a trainer, you learn over time that it's not just the kid. You've got to work with the parent. You've got to talk to the parent, communicate with them. If you're trying to be a good trainer, if you're trying to really make impact, right? You don't just work the kid out and then send them home, right? Even just scheduling wise, you've got to communicate. You've got to text with parents. You've got to be on top of things, and it really becomes a relationship. In the last few years, as I've developed my meditation and mindfulness practice and translated that into my training and the players that I work with, I've gotten a lot more serious about the fact that I need a relationship with this kid. Mom, dad, if it's a teenager in high school, if they have a phone, I need the phone number. More importantly, I need them to have access to me, because if they want to know more about what we just did for an hour, which in the span of a week, right? If you're here for, 2-3 hours a week total, coming for, little over an hour workout, couple days a week, there's 168 hours in the week. So clearly there's more than you have to do than just being here with me, right? You'd have to live with me. I've said that to certain parents. You would have to drop your kid off here for the summer to live here with me. Maybe you can pick them up on the weekends and they could come home for a Saturday, Sunday, but they'd have to live with me for the summer and build a daily regimen with me in order for this kid to turn into what y'all say you want this kid to be come October, November, tryouts, season, whatever. So going back to Dorian, I just appreciate that, because I am very serious about telling parents that I'll give you advice. I can suggest things that maybe you should do at home or when you're not here, whatever. But I am very, very adamant about not coming anywhere close to sounding like I'm giving parenting advice. And it can come close, because this process, this journey of an athlete or a basketball player, like it's a journey. There's a lot to it. It challenges your lifestyle. You embrace a certain lifestyle, your life, right? Like, I know it doesn't sound great, but for the greats, for the ones who really love it and become, almost obsessed with it, it somewhat takes over your life. There's a lot of sacrifice involved. There's a lot, right? There's days doing stuff when you don't feel like doing it, right? It's that kind of stuff. It's your lifestyle that shifts. So in order for me to, like, as I evaluate a kid, a player, and what is their home situation like? What are their parents like? Just, you kind of observe that over time. And then as you give it, it's like, I'm not going to suggest, a certain regimen and lifestyle that is just unrealistic with, that just doesn't, that's just a complete contrast from the kind of lifestyle and regimen that kid is used to at home, right? You really have to evaluate that stuff. I can suggest things that you can do at home, basketball wise or stretching wise or breathing wise, and so then it comes to that's why this book is so important, because it all comes down to the parent. I feel like it's rare, but you have kids who are just internally motivated. My latest podcast guest on the show, you can watch it on YouTube, Tasha Pointer, my big sister, Rutgers women's basketball assistant coach, Rutgers legend, Chicago legend. Tasha was a phenomenal ball handler. She was just one of the more dynamic small guards you will ever see. Tasha talked about it on the show, how when she grew up in Chicago, she was not, going to camps, watching YouTube videos, because there was no YouTube. She wasn't pounding the rock, in her driveway. She wasn't doing a bunch of dribbling drills. The way she got nice at dribbling was dribbling against her dog. She would take her dog, Bingo, out and walk along the sidewalk. And dogs like to jump at the ball, and they're super active and hyper and stuff. And that's how she worked on her dribbling, and her moves was going out and dribbling against the dog. Now, depending on your environment, your context, your parents, your home, your lifestyle, right? You may not even have a dog, right? So you can't even suggest to someone to go out and do that. But I just use that as an example. Tasha was internally motivated. She didn't need her dad coming in her room every day to be like, Tasha, go out and dribble against that dog. That was fun for her in one sense, I'm sure, and also productive for her. She became obsessed with that process. Again, just along with the fact that she probably just had a lot of fun dribbling the ball and learning teaching herself how to dribble the ball better. Every kid is not going to be that internally motivated. As is the case with all kids, your parents dictate your life. Suggesting things to a young player who's like, anywhere from like 10 to 13 years old, they're still learning what it takes. Like, again, if they're just super motivated, like, you could always tell, you could see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. You could tell who the ones are who are just like, what do I do? I'm going to do it. And they're hanging on every word, and they're just going to do it because they want it that bad. Others, and it's, again, as a kid, like you don't have to like you don't have to be a beast yet. You don't have to be that just to become great. But like your parents are the key. The parents are the key. And that's why I appreciate Dorian and appreciate this book, because it's 70 pages. It's a short read, but there's so much substance in here. Like, I know Dorian knew this title, right, is controversial, but it's not, it doesn't berate parents. It doesn't critique you or criticize. He does offer some insight on parenting styles. Again, he's able to do that. He's a parent himself. I am no parent expert or anything, he's offering insight on parenting styles, ways to think about how to evaluate your kid and how much they actually love the game. Dorian has a great line in this book that I resonate with so much in the book. One thing he said is that he cringes when parents tell him that their kid loves basketball. In the book, he writes, "I know what love looks like and how closely it resembles obsession." He also says something really powerful about love and kids that love the game. He says that you can be good at basketball and not love the game if your why is strong enough. So an example of someone's why being stronger than their love for the game might be someone who is just focused on using basketball and whatever gifts they have in the game, whether it's their size, their height, rebounding, vision, IQ, passing, shooting, right? Like getting the most out of that ability that's either like a natural gift or something that they've really worked hard at to develop, using that to change their family's life. That could be a strong enough why to be like, I don't even have to love the game that much. My why, I'm here for mom or for grandma, or to get my, to help my dad out, or to, get my family in a better situation. And it doesn't have to be that, but that's just one example of like a why that could be super strong enough to outweigh what's usually needed, which is like a deep burning passion and love for the game. I said that I really relate to that because I have talked to players, and Dorian gives references in this book of certain players that he knew didn't want to play basketball. I know there are, and I know like this book is tough because like I know Dorian knows it's tough, the title, the concept, right? I know, parents may not be rushing to get this thing, because it takes, the only basketball parents who are going to tap into this book are the ones who really, really want the best for their kid. And I know, any parent who's involved in their kid's life, that's all they want. They want the best for their kid. They're going to advocate for their kid, whether delusionally or realistically. They're just constantly advocating for their kid. They want the best for them. The other type of parent, basketball parent, that's really going to and genuinely tap into this book is the one that really wants the best for their kid, basketball wise, and is able to admit to themselves that either they've done all they can do or they don't know enough. They don't really know what to do. And I'm gonna tell you, most basketball parents don't, unless your parent played at a certain level or has, friends or a network, a community of people that they know that are in the basketball space. Like, even if that's the case, like unless they played, at a certain level, and their temperament and attitude and ego is on a certain level, most basketball parents don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what to do. One, because they don't, if you don't know basketball, that's already a disadvantage. Now, I know parents, my cousin Taryn, her son Jaden, my little cousin, who I just call him my cousin now. He's a whole 18 years old. I can't call him my little cousin anymore. He's a freshman at Marist College, full scholarship. So be it. Built himself up from being a role bench player, non-factor his sophomore year in high school to becoming one of the best players in New Jersey by his senior year. His mother, Taryn, She ran track in high school, so she's an athlete and she likes sports. Like she's a sports girl. She enjoys sports and competition. Never played any basketball. She has been around basketball a lot. She dated people who played, and of course her son ended up playing. Her husband played. She didn't see him play when he was playing, but her husband played. So like basketball is all around her, has been all around her. Taryn, and I always say Taryn has forgotten more basketball than most of us have seen. I've done basketball my whole life, playing, coaching, filming, writing, editing, talking. You know, I mean, I've done so much. I've done basketball all my life in every facet. And I'm telling you, and Taryn is in those gyms with that elbow tucked, with the camera up. She's got every one of Jaden's games on camera, on film. If for some reason she couldn't make it, she sends Keith, her husband, with that camera, with the battery. Keith, charge the battery, put the camera in the bag, get it to the tuck that elbow, get the footage, Keith, get the footage. And they watch, like they watch the film with Jaden. They watch his games and stuff. They use it as education. As they don't use it for like highlights. They actually used it. They started doing it so they could watch the games with Jaden to analyze his game with him and to just watch things honestly and help him to see what he could do better. Taryn today knows the game of basketball. Taryn knows the game. I could talk to Taryn about any level of basketball concept. Sometimes I get a little more high level with Keith, but Taryn understands it all. She understands it all. And then she'll say something that I'm like, yeah, like, and it may not be like super like technical basketball wise. Like Taryn will come with the life stuff, but it will relate directly to what we're talking about in basketball. But she does like Taryn knows and understands the game now. She's been watching it enough. She's been invested in the game and in her son, who loves the game and who has continued to love the game and want to reach a certain level. My cousin Taryn, her husband Keith, with their son Jaden, like they're an example for me of so many things that Dorian speaks to in this book that he suggests parents do. One big one is consulting with other parents whose kids are in positions that you want your kid to be in. Part of Keith and Taryn's testimony, they will say it until the end. They will shout out every name, every parent, every mom and dad that they connected with. Keith knew some parents in the area from his playing days. That's, like I said, like basketball parents. Like if they played, if they know, like basketball is like a huge fraternity. Like if you played at any time, your teammates, your friends, sons, team, like the basketball community is like a huge fraternity. So it's common. Like if you were any good at any time, you walk into a gym somewhere, an AAU tournament or something, you'll probably bump into somebody that or that knows you. Like someone you played against or a referee who ref one of your games. Like that's just how it is. If in the basketball world, that's just how it is. So Keith played. He played at Wagner. Went to high school in East Orange. Was a big time player in high school. So like he still knew people around the way, parents, coaches, right? So he started tapping in with his network in the area, parents of kids that were in situations or that were on their way to be in situations and positions that they wanted their kid to be in. They did not hesitate. They were not shy. They said, yo, we need Jaden in there. Now, Jaden could also play. It wasn't like he was just some kid that just wanted, he was a player. He was a good player, so like he had work to do, but they wanted him around those kids. Mandatory. Dorian talks about that in one chapter too, about like not keeping your kids from negative or difficult situations basketball wise. You can't duck the smoke, as we say. Don't duck the smoke. Throw them into the fire in some cases, right? You got to give them that support and encouragement. Don't just throw them, don't just throw them in. Build them up. Dorian talks about that in this book too. You know, it's about a flow of building up your athlete, building up your kid, encouraging them, not forcing them, right? You can't force a river into submission. It just goes. You got to go with the current. You know, with the whole thing about players who really love the game, you know, like any kid who shows up to a workout wouldn't dare say to a trainer, I don't really love the game like that. You know, they wouldn't dare. So they're just gonna tell you what you want to hear. That's why you have to probe and talk. Like I talk to the kids I work with. You heard me. I almost slipped up and said my kids. You see what I'm talking about? That's where I slip up. I say my kids, you know. I almost always have a conversation with the kid that I'm working out or training at the time. You know, we start out by, I'm like, yo, how was school today? You know, anything interesting happen in school? What's going on with your sister? You know, what's going on with that thing you were talking about? How did that assignment go? Like we need to be able to communicate and talk, right? Because then I get into your real I start to hear your real voice. Now you're talking to me like you just talk to anybody, your friend. You're comfortable, you're relaxed, you just feel like you can talk to me. We got to be able to naturally and genuinely connect. Again, that matters just as much as anything else if we're actually going to help them become a better basketball player. Dorian has, I mean, bro, there's so much stuff in this book I could reference, but he on page 44, he says part of the job requirement for a basketball player is communication. And I know players that, even players who do talk a lot, but it's a lot easier for them. But players who are like super shy and quiet and don't want to talk too much, when they get in those drills in practice and tryouts or in practice, and the coach gets on them the most, because it's like, listen, I'm not trying to make, well, you are kind of making them into a different person. You need to be able to communicate in life for a job, for a relationship. Communication is extremely key, not just in basketball. So it's one of those life things. I'm not trying to just get on you because you're a shy kid and you don't talk, and I'm not trying to like make you upset. I am trying to change you a little bit, but it's for your betterment. In this instance of the team, it helps the team. Like if you want to help the team win, right? You want to be part of a winning culture. Well, when the rotation happens and you drop to the level of the ball, I need you to open your mouth and say, or when your teammate is getting screened, I need you to yell screen. It becomes that simple. Part of the job requirement for a basketball player is communication. It's a requirement, right? There are players who were shy, quiet, a little reserved. Kawhi Leonard, great. He's not super vocal, loud. In fact, we make fun of him for how reserved and shy and quiet he is, and how he doesn't raise his voice and just, he doesn't talk a lot, super monotone, right? You can be a great player and be that way, but guess what? You better be a machine. You better be a Kawhi Leonard if you're just not talking, if you don't open your mouth. And Kawhi speaks, listen, even as stoic as Kawhi may seem, if you mic him up during the game, he is communicating. No one is just staying quiet. You can't play basketball without communicating, not effectively. You won't even be able to play if you're not talking. It's part of the job requirement for a basketball player. Because I look at kids sometimes when they first get here to work out, and just their body language, their community, it takes a while to warm up, with a new person. It takes a while to warm up. So you can't expect all that right away. You give it a few sessions, you see if they're loosening up, if they're warming up, if they're receptive to the things that you're offering them, if they want to learn, right? Like if their eyes kind of light up a little bit, if they start asking questions. Working out and sweating and getting out of breath and pushing yourself to certain limits may not always be super fun and comfortable. Some players, some people like that strain. Some people like taking themselves there. But it's not always, fun and comfortable. You get sore, you get tired, you've got to run and sprint, and you're trying to focus on making shots and being efficient, and your footwork is tight, and, handling the ball well, and like you're trying to get better in that time. You're trying to focus on those things. But if I get to the heart of a player, and we're talking, and now we get to talk, and you talk more about video games or Taylor Swift or cars or food or your family or Disney, or like you talk more about movies and books or school or your friend. Like when you get excited, when we're talking, and you're not talking about basketball. And I mean, you don't have to talk about basketball 24/7, but remember what Dorian said. I know what love looks like and how closely it resembles obsession. Players that I work with that really want to get to a certain level, the level that they say they want to get to, all my players, we chop it up, we laugh, we talk, we talk about certain stuff, but we come back to the hoop. Like at some point, they're going to ask me if I watched the video of James Harden, or if I seen Steph play last night, or we'll talk about the NBA playoffs, or we'll talk about a college team, or where a kid is going to college, some kid they played against or something. Like we're going to talk basketball. That's our orbit right now. That's what we both love. That's what we're here doing and working on. And, then, we're working on a movement or a cadence or something. They ask me a question. Wait, does my foot go like this? Should I be lower? Should I, like that's the sign of a player that really wants to be here and that really loves it and that is committed to getting to a certain level. They're locked in. The idea of like allowing your kid to do what they actually love, right? I mean, I try not to criticize any parents out here because I just have so much respect for the ones that really do the job. I would think that it's the goal to have your kid be as happy as possible and have them do what they love. If they love Barbie dolls, if they love Lego sets, if they love Marvel movies, like, and if they're like 6, 7 years old, that's, they're kids, but if they're, again, in between that age of 10 and 13, 10 and 14, especially as they become teenagers, if they love makeup, if they love technology, I just feel like as a parent, that should be so obvious to just ride that wave. Dorian says that his book, he says, and I just appreciate that he puts it that way. And again, if you're a parent in denial, you're not listening to this. You're not getting Dorian's book. You don't care about any of it. You just going to keep on trucking and keep forcing and keep making your kid miserable. They may end up pretty good, but they're going to be miserable. So this won't apply to you. If you just don't care, if this, again, you're not even listening to this if that's the case. So let me just move on to people who care. If basketball is not a deep passion for your child, this is what Dorian says about his book. If basketball is not a deep passion for your child, you can use this book to help identify your child's passion. I would think that any parent would want to know what their kid's genuine passion is. I would think so. I know there are parents that exist that want their passion to be their kid's passion, that think that their passion is their kid's passion, that don't even care what their kid's passion is. You're going to be passionate about this because we've been doing this since you were 3 years old, and you're going to do this regardless of what anybody thinks or says. If you're genuine in wanting to know what your kid really loves and wants, if you want to be honest with yourself, because you're putting yourself through misery as well. I would think any parent wants to identify what their child's true passion is, because then once you have it, you're all invested. The process of it, that stuff costs money. Y'all don't think I know? Parents have told me I know how much money it is. I know what that investment looks like. Traveling, tournaments, uniforms, sneakers. Trust me, I know the bill adds up. I know it. And which also baffles me as to why any parent would want to continue that lifestyle of output of investment if they are not 100% sure this is what their kid not just wants to do, but what they love. If you're a good player, if you're an athlete or something, it doesn't have to be, I want to go pro, I want to be pro at this. If it is, that's perfectly fine. But there comes a certain attitude and work ethic and lifestyle that comes with that. And that starts with the parents. Look, could you be the reason your kid is trash? 8 keys to maximizing your young athlete's potential. There are do's and don'ts in here, reflections, just simple things to just think about as a basketball parent today, which has got to be one of the more challenging jobs and roles in all of sports in the world right now. And Dorian kind of goes into this a little bit to kind of clarify, trash is a term that we all use as basketball players when we don't play well. You say, I was trash today, or he's trash or she's trash, to say like, they just suck. This could be interpreted a few different ways. Like, could you be the reason your kid sucks? That's your kid could suck. Now, if your kid sucks at basketball, why are they, like if your kid sucks, just sucks at basketball, there's at a certain age, they shouldn't be playing basketball anymore if they're not getting better, and if they really suck, all the work is on the parent. Like, unless the kid is so focused on not sucking anymore. But like when you suck, it's just, it's hard to really get out of that yourself. You need external forces to help you think about and realize that you don't have to suck. You can get better. And that has to come from the parents. So are you the reason that your kid sucks? Is it you? This could also be interpreted like, could you be holding your kid back? Like your kid could be like, trash doesn't just mean that they suck. Like trash could mean that they're just not reaching their potential. They're being held back, right? They're just not, they're not able to let loose. Something is like blocking them, right? And it could be you. It could be your voice in their head. It could be you at the games. It could be you constantly negative, criticizing, saying what they could be doing better. Like just a small tweak in how you think about this stuff can make a huge difference in how your kid, your athlete performs. That's why I really believe in this book. Listen, like I said, I know it takes a softening of the ego of a parent to really tap into something like this. But trust me, if you're serious about really just developing yourself as a parent, share this with the parent. You may be listening to this and you're not a parent of a kid, or your kid has already gone on to college or pro and about the stuff I'm talking about. Share this with a parent. And it may, I can only imagine what kind of signal that would send if you give this to someone for Christmas or on Thanksgiving, and it's the book. It's like, could you be the reason your kid is trash? Here you go. Take a look at this and ask yourself this question. If you're just in the journey, if you're starting out or in the journey and you just want a different approach to this basketball parenting madness, trust me, I think you should tap in. It's a short book, 70 pages, quick read. Dorian Lee does great work, knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about. We need as many resources as possible for the players and especially for their parents. The parents are the ones working, paying all the money, traveling, driving, transporting. Y'all need the ones. I'm getting ready to work on something for basketball parents on mindfulness, meditation, and yoga for y'all, because y'all the ones who need it. I'm focusing on the kids and making sure they're good. Y'all need to be good too. Most of the stress is really on y'all. The kids are stressed and y'all are stressed, and it's just the stress hurricane. We need to just help each other, encourage each other, and offer resources like this book so we can, just change our approaches and just, be better players and live happier lives, just happy families, happy, good basketball players, happy families, let's heal the world. Michael Jackson, heal the world. Dorian, great work on this, bro. I appreciate you. I really hope I can chop it up with him on the show soon. That is definitely the plan. I appreciate you for listening to this episode of the Basketball Society podcast. My name is Martin Soaries. Much love to you. Do me a favor, go down and leave a rating and review of the show. If you're on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, go ahead and do that for me. We have a lot more content coming. Basketball season is approaching. I have a lot of stuff to talk about and get off my chest. Basketball training, working out, player tendencies, NBA, WNBA, grassroots, high school. We're coming with it all on the show this season. So make sure you stay tapped in. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review of the show for me. I would really appreciate that. All the episodes are on YouTube. Last thing to say, if you just need these episodes on Spotify, leave me a comment on YouTube, reach out to me on social media. I'm not hard to find. If you're just dying for this content you just need it on Spotify. If even one person says it to me, I will do the extra work and make sure that the show goes through to Spotify as well. But all episodes are on YouTube. So if you're not an iTunes, Apple, iPhone person, I try to get everything up on the YouTube channel. So be subscribed to Basketball Society on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications. I don't know if people actually do that or not, unless they really want to know when someone drops a video. But if you want to know, you can click the bell, the notification button. You'll know every time I drop something. All the episodes, audio and video, go up on the YouTube channel. So subscribe to Basketball Society and you can get everything there. If you're an Android person, if you're not iPhone, you could get everything through YouTube. Much love to you guys. Appreciate you. This is the Basketball Society podcast, where we have as many basketball conversations as possible. Much love. Stay tapped in. I'll see you guys next time.